A startup is kind of a video game. It used to be in the beginning. You'd get to the next level, you'd unlock, and you'd release this dopamine, and it's that reward mechanism wants you to keep pushing forward. But after a certain point, when you beat the game in a sense, what's next? And a lot of people in the startup space can just keep going one after the other, just chasing the money in a sense. But I just realized that wasn't fulfilling for me anymore. And there had to be a deeper purpose. And that's when I decided best to just pause and take a step back to take a step forward. And that was the reason why I decided to do this, to reevaluate what I wanted to get out of the startup and what I wanted to get out of life in general moving forwards.
Foti Panagiotakopoulos. I missed it. Oh, I practiced it so many times. Panagiotakopoulos. I don't know. You say it.
That's the way. That's the Greek way. The American way is like Panagiotakopoulos, you could say.
Okay, well, I messed it up either way you slice it, but it's okay. All right, welcome back to The Entrepreneur Next Door. It's a special reason to ask you to come back, and we'll talk about it in a second. But for my audience, who is Foti? Please introduce yourself.
So my name is Foti. I am the founder of GrowthMentor. It's a startup and marketing mentorship platform where you can book one-on-one calls to just have chats and talk with other operators in the field doing the thing, right? And just get different perspectives, advice, feedback, and yeah, that's the general concept. I've been working on that for 6 years. Prior to that, I was leading marketing at a web hosting company, and yeah, I think that's as far back as I need to go.
Okay, that's great. And I will whisper that your partner who works closely with you is your wife, the amazing Jessica. We got to give her credit because behind every successful man, there's an amazing woman.
100%.
So you've been doing it for 6 years. You're a little bit humble, but I want to tell everybody that we have roughly 700 and you're getting close to logging 50,000 mentorship calls in the past, which is incredibly impressive. Full disclosure, I'm a proud member of the Mentors Club of GrowthMentor. I always say that we do this freely of our time, and it's been one of the most fulfilling things that I've done. So, Foti, you run a business for 6 years, and a couple of weeks ago, you did something that most of us are dreaming about, and very few have the courage and the discipline to do. So let's talk about what you've done first, and then we'll dive into what led you to do it.
So I walked the Camino Santiago Franquist route. For those that don't know, it's an ancient pilgrimage. It's been going on for 1,000 years from France to Santiago, the big cathedral over there, 790 kilometers there, and an extra 90 kilometers to go to Finisterre, which is on the Atlantic Ocean. So like roughly 900K. And yeah, I just walked that path completely unplugged from work for over a month, no laptop, and just went to clear my mind a little bit and try and recover from a bit of burnout.
So I did the math, 790 kilometers roughly before you added the 90. It's close to 500 miles. I'm in New York. That will be the equivalent of going to Washington, D.C. and back. It will be the equivalent of walking from here to Toronto, Canada. Just to give people a perspective, although numbers are numbers, it's hard. It's hard to say it, but it's good to kind of quantify it somehow. So I guess I always like to ask my guests about something they call the decisive moment. The decisive moment being the point at which you decide, I need to do this. And I'm sure you didn't wake up one morning and told your wife, I'm going to go away for a month, no phone, no cell, nothing. What was when was the decisive moment, and what led to it?
Yeah. So the decisive moment was when I was just staring at my screen and I just literally couldn't really focus for more than 10 minutes on anything. I was just completely apathetic about the whole thing. Just didn't have any motivation to keep moving forward. It all felt kind of mundane. And that was in September. Decided then I had heard about this Camino thing in May of that year. So I was at a wedding in Portugal, and we went to this one town near Lisbon, and the Camino, the Portugal way, crosses through it, and there was this marker over there, and it was talking about it. Sorry, my phone's ringing. And I was like, what the hell is this? This exists. So it was in the back of my head. And at that moment in time, it just felt like the moment to do it. Like I had thought about that would be a pretty cool experience, but I never really even imagined I would ever do it. Yeah, I just got burned out, and it was a slow process. It took a couple of months to really get to that point. And it's kind of like paradoxical how I got burned out. I didn't get burned out from doing too much work. It was the opposite, from hitting a lot of my goals, cleaning my calendar. Like I wasn't doing calls. I delegated a lot of the work that I was doing. And it was like, all right, well, now what? What do we do? What's the point, right? Because I realized I was hiding behind workaholism, and I couldn't hide anymore because I didn't really have that much that I had to do. So I mean, I'm the type of person, I can invent work, no problem. Like I can sit around and work for 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. I'll have a bunch of things to do. But if you don't have, there's no actual real problems to solve anymore. For me, a startup is kind of a video game. It used to be in the beginning. You'd get to the next level, you'd unlock and you'd release this dopamine, and it's that reward mechanism wants you to keep pushing forward. But after a certain point, when you kind of like beat the game in a sense, what's next? And a lot of people in the startup space that can just keep going one after the other, just chasing the money in a sense. But I just realized that wasn't fulfilling for me anymore. And there had to be a deeper purpose. And that's when I decided best to just pause and take a step back to take a step forward. And that really was the reason why I decided to do this, just to kind of reevaluate what I wanted to get out of the startup and what I wanted to get out of life in general moving forwards.
So it's interesting because many of the people that follow you and my audience of it's growing is over 5,000 people around the world. Many of them are startup founders. Many of them are entrepreneurs. Some of them think about starting a business. The interesting part about your story is that you refer to it as a startup, but it's a 6-year-old company that's quite impressively successful, right? It's not like you're struggling and then you're burned out. You're checking the boxes. You've got a great team. It continues to grow. Yet, like you said, I beat the game. Now what?
Yeah.
So very, very interesting. So you go to Jessica and you say, I gotta go.
She's supportive. Super. Yeah.
Of
She's
course
like,
she.
just gotta do what you gotta do.
So how do you prepare for a month of walking through a trail with zero communications? How do you prepare for it? I mean, I assume you need good shoes. Where do you eat? What do you do? How does that
Yeah.
actually? I mean, it sounds great when you listen to the story, but then you got to get off a plane. You got to get off something, dot the trail.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't really have much time to prepare. I probably should have took more time, but I didn't have that much time. Like I did a week of 5K runs and just started running for a bit, but I usually do that anyway. So like didn't really do that much. So my preparation was, all right, let's go on Google and like check and see what you need, what your minimum travel pack needs to be. So I bought a new pair of shoes, wore them in for like a week or something. And yeah, I took a backpack, 3 pairs of underwear, 3 long sleeve shirts, 2 pairs of pants, and just flew to France. I always butcher the name of the starting city, Jean de Ports or something. Went to the starting city, and then you stay at these albergues. So it's hostels the whole way,
Mm.
right? With bunk beds. So it like flashbacks to army days, and the bear, like it's like that. You pay like $15, $10 a day, and you just sleep with a bunch of other people, and you have to just figure things out and just walk. And all you have to do, really, it's the easiest thing. You don't really have to even prepare that much. You just get up and you walk. Like your goal is just to get to the next town, and you just have to decide what your distance is going to be. Are you going to walk today 18 kilometers, 25, 30? You want to go crazy and do 2 days in one, do 40? Like that's it. Just kind of figure out where you're going to stay at. And I did that for 35 days, and that was my only like objective for that time period, was just to get to the next waypoint and not get injured, and not get the blisters and deal with knee issues. Like 4 days in, actually, like my knee kind of gave out, really bad pain because I didn't have the walking sticks. Tip anyone who ever wants to do this: buy walking sticks. You need it, especially on the downhills on the second day to Zubiri. And my knee was just killing me, and I was like, I can't walk. So I spent 2 nights just relaxing, chilling. I didn't walk, and then I just realized I wouldn't be able to. I can't. So I actually flew back home, flew back to Greece, and I stayed there for 10 days. I did 3 physiotherapy sessions, and on the 11th day, I flew back and I restarted from where I left off. And in Pamplona when I left the first time. I was really tempted to maybe skip like 100 kilometers or 200 since I lost 10 days. I was like, no, if I'm going to do it, let's do it proper, do the whole thing and start exactly where I left off. And yeah, it's really just a matter of mind over matter and just walking. There's people that are 70 years old there, 75 I saw walking. I saw one dude, he had a stroke a year and a half earlier. And he was walking kind of with a bit of a limp, an American guy, and he was doing it just to prove to other people with stroke about how you can recover. And it took him I don't know if he's probably still walking it right now. It was going to take him 2 months. But you see all different types of people doing it for their own reasons. I met people that did it because they lost family members, other people that are doing it because they just recovered from cancer and they wanted to thank God. Some people are doing it for religious reasons. Other people are doing it for personal transformation reasons. Everybody has their reasons. But the constant behind everybody was that they have something internal that they want to solve, and they just want to just remove themselves from all of the other stimuli of everyday life and do inward searching. Because when you're walking, it's essentially meditation, right? You have nothing else. I wasn't really listening to music or podcasts. It was just me walking in nature and just looking around. And of course, you have amazing conversations with like walking buddies. You make friends along the way. So yeah, it's something that I definitely don't regret doing. And for me, it was high impact because it taught me that it's okay to go slow. You don't have to, there's no rush, right? It's not the destination. And I think with founders, like we're all obsessed about X, I need to get to $1 million ARR or $100 million valuation. It's like, why? What are you running for, right? The most important things in life are health, number one. Number two, it's your family healthy, right? If you can still call your parents, that's amazing, right? Just have gratitude for that and just being able to appreciate the moment because the future does not exist. It's a figment of our imaginations and the past is over. It's done with. So can you sit and just be still and just be present in the moment and appreciate that? I wasn't really able to do that before. And I think that's what doing this walk has helped me at least embark on the journey of being able to do that, which before, like, it was just something you hear about, right? Mindfulness and being in the present moment. But like, when you're in the grind and you're like obsessed with work, like you kind of hear it and it just sounds good. It's a soundbite. But yeah.
You did this for a specific reason. You said, I was burnt out. The signal for me didn't sound like it was depression. I was just staring at a screen and said,
Yeah.
okay, I beat the game. What do I do now? But the problem that we have as humans is that, okay, so you checked off the box. Did it have the impact? You didn't know what you're going to come out with at the end of the process because it was brand new to you. Looking back at it today, is it still impactful? Have you changed, or did you slide back to the old habits?
Old habits are really difficult to change, but they're not impossible to change. And I've definitely seen a lot of changes that since I've been back. I've only been back like two and a half weeks, right? So like it's too early for me to proclaim victory over my old vices and habits yet, but I'm a work in progress. We're all works in progress, and for sure, like I've noticed some changes. And it's just for me, it's just like what else is there to life beyond just work, right? And I've restarted piano lessons. I'm learning Spanish now a little bit as well, just for fun. And really focusing on being intentful about what I'm working on the work component of it, right? Beyond just the personal, like how to live a more holistic 360-degree balanced life. But from the work perspective, it's not so much about, okay, how am I going to get to this next huge milestone? It's what's the next village that I need to walk to, right? Because like if I start walking, I'm like, all right, I have to walk, and I'm always thinking about, okay, 800 kilometers is Santiago. I'm going to walk there. You're going to get overwhelmed, right? But if you just say, okay, I just need to walk these 25 kilometers to get to Leon or whatever, like that's it. That's that one thing that you have to do, and it's just that it's possible, right? And then once you hit it, you get that reward from it, which keeps you motivated for the next day and the next day, the next day, and the next day. And I think that was for me like my biggest epiphany, is that I was thinking too big, right? Just because these grandiose ideas are being proliferated through social media and the startup ecosystem, like you have to hit these milestones. And it's like, all right, well, you're stuck at, let's say hypothetically, $41,000 MRR, and you used to be at 50. Why do you want to go back to 50? Go 43. What do I have to do right now? Because you're going to come up with different solutions if you just aim a little bit shorter, right? Smaller. And it's the same with addiction. We have that reward cycle, right? Where you do the vice, and then you get the dopamine, and then that's the reward, and that's why you want to keep doing it. You can harness that same psychology, those bio mechanics with positive things as well, but you have to aim a little bit lower. That's just my perspective. And for me,
Yeah.
like just this taking it slower to go faster, because it's about the consistency, right? Because if you're consistently doing small wins, things that are achievable, things that are fun for you, that make sense in the moment, right? Because again, what's going to happen 3 months from now, that's a different chapter. We haven't reached that chapter yet, right? Continue to write the chapter that you're in right now. Focus on the next, not even the next, this chapter, focus on the next line, right? In your story, because you're the director, you're writing the script of your own life story, right? So what's the next line that you have to write? What's the next sentence? And that for me, from a work perspective, has been the most impactful takeaway.
And you know that for all of us, the root cause of what you describe is the constant chase to reach the next milestone, and it's never enough. In our defense, I would say that we're, even my generation, it's older than yours, we're all from early on in school, throughout the process of growing up and college and working, you're constantly being driven to set goals, to meet goals. And if you didn't meet the goals, you get beat up. Why? And it's constant. We're never told about mindfulness and slowing down to speed up, all the stuff that you learn the hard way after you get burnt out. So what is your purpose of starting a business, right? What is the ultimate goal here? Yes, we all want to start a business and make a living and be successful. When we mentor people, we ask the question, sometimes you get the deer in the headlight. What do you mean purpose? What's Forti's purpose? Has that changed after the walk?
So during the walk, I met some really amazing people. I met people that on first glance I thought that I wouldn't like, and then you turn a couple of pages and you realize, wow, like their book is amazing. You know, why am I judging this book by its cover? Right? You meet people from all over the place, and you all have that sort of bond in common. Doing that walk, it reminded me why I made Growth Mentor in the first place, was to maximize the surface area of potentiality for having connections, meaningful connections, the spark that can be catalyst for serendipity. So it reminded me like why I was even doing Growth Mentor in the first place from the beginning. And I feel like I had lost the last couple of years. You know, it's like, okay, how are we gonna make more money? Right? Like, but it's at a certain point, like it doesn't really matter. Like I bought my car that I like. I have a nice house, whatever. But like to a certain point, it doesn't really make that big of a difference. So yeah, that purpose of just connecting people, it kind of rekindled that fire. And that's what I want to continue to do now with Growth Mentor. And I want to make some other platforms as well. This is the first place I've actually publicly talked about it before. So yeah, if you're hearing it here first. I want to make other mentorship platforms for different verticals, different life milestones that happen. One of them being a parents mentor. So that's our next project that we're starting right now, where parents can book calls with other parents and just bounce ideas off of, like, just basically share stories and get advice. So the purpose is just enabling, because we live in this world with AI. Is just like, I don't know, like I like AI. I'm not gonna lie, I use it all the time, right? Like I just wrote a blog post using Claude in like 10 minutes yesterday. That would have taken me 4 hours, right? And it's actually really good, but it's not a replacement for human to human connection, right? You can't use it as a therapist. You can't use it as a mentor. You could use it really quickly just to get a different perspective, just to kind of joggle your mind, but there's no emotion behind it, right? And I think that we as humans, we're energetic, right? In nature, like we have different vibrational frequencies. And if you talk to people that are at a very high vibrational level, like they'll draw you and they can be a catalyst for change, right? So how do you get in contact with people like that, right? If you're like in a random town and your circle's small or you're not very networked. And that for me is my purpose, giving people the opportunity to talk to people that are operating at a higher frequency, because I think that's just a blessing to be able to meet people like that.
So you're pointing something incredibly interesting that we live in a era where the our access to information and help at any level is literally virtually limitless,
It's
right?
insane. Yeah. Anything you want.
Yet, yet you also have the highest degrees of depression and loneliness in the same period because and I think you're pointing something out that's important for whether it's SaaS founders or people who are early startup small business owners is to
Mhm.
understand that it's a journey that's filled with ups and downs. I always call it the roller coaster of business. And what you did is you got off the roller coaster a little bit wobbly and you decided to not go on it again until you're ready for it. You know, the thing that has been discussed in nursing homes by people who are late 80s and 90s is regret what they didn't do that they missed out on. You define this as burnout where you just say, okay, I love that concept. I beat the game. Now what? It's
It was just a feeling of like numbness. And I think it was just a signal, right? Because it could have turned into something else, depression and so on. So I took it as a signal. And I'm like, I need to deal with this. It's not really a weakness per se. It's a signal. It's just, hey, let's just analyze here and dig a little bit deeper and find out what's at the core of this. Speaking of the one-way ticket, like I passed a lot of cemeteries on the walk.
hmm.
A lot of Spanish people chilling there, right, forever, and they took nothing with them, right? You just walk by and you're like, they all had dreams, they all had goals and fears and all of that. But this is where we're all going to end up. We're all mortal. I think this is what the Stoics are really good at. It's coming to terms with our own mortality, and it's something that I think we should think about. We're going to end up there. So gratitude for being here right now and able to tackle the next day. Incredibly important. And there's a lot that I have to be grateful for that I didn't really even think about like a month and a half ago. You don't have to take the Camino. Definitely, I was privileged to be able to even take that time off. I had a team, and most people don't have that ability to just take a month off of life. But you could take 3, 4, 5 days, and if you don't want to take time off, just stop looking at the phone all the time. I think just the devices, it's a cancer to society. I think like this addiction that we have. We're not, if you can't walk across your house without grabbing that phone, you're not free. When we talk about
Yeah.
freedom being important in today's society, and we can't even go to the bathroom without taking the phone. What kind of a free person are you? So like,
So I've observed throughout my life, I don't know why, that uh, the most successful people that we are exposed to, primarily celebrities, who have everything they could ever hope for and then some. They get married, and 6 months later they get divorced, and then they do this again and again. And I always wondered, why does this happen? People would give their right arm and their right kidney to have 10% of what they have, and yet, they're so unhappy. So, do you think? And again, I keep going back to this brilliant statement you made. I beat the game. What's your message to people in the growth mentor community, but other people who are? They don't have to be business owners. It could be somebody who's an executive in a company, growth executive, who's under pressure, constant pressure, right? For more leads, more conversions, meet the goals, constant. The burnout exists whether you're a business owner or whether you work for a living. How do you tell them when do you stop and listen? How do you listen to the signal? In your case, blank screen. What else? Because we've met enough of them in our career, right?
yeah, there's signals that happen like your diet. How much do you care about your exercise habits? I had let all those loose months before, even years before I completely burned out. Right. And I think that's also a reason why I burned out as well. And maybe it wouldn't even happen that badly if I was just taking care of myself. But are you taking care of yourself, your body? And that's just like, that's a binary yes or no. I don't think there's grayscale there. Right. You're either mindful of that or you're generally you're not. I think that you just have to learn how to listen to your inner voice. All right. And that's what I struggled with as well. It was all here in my head. Right? I was always in my head. I wasn't tuned in to the soul level, right? I believe in God and soul, not really from a theistic perspective, but it doesn't matter. The point is that there is this inner voice that I was overpowering, and I was trying to intellectualize and rationalize my decision making process, and also was not in tune with my body. And if you find yourself trying to talk over what that inner voice is telling you, that's a signal as well. And I mean, that's why they say meditate and all that good stuff, which I never really did.
So interestingly, when I speak to mentees and business clients, one of the questions I ask, can you take off a month, walk away from your business for a month, never call in, don't check your email? Can you go take your family on a month-long vacation and not worry about it? And of course, I would say 9 out of 10 times the answer is no, I can't. And for me, that's a clear indication of a not well-run business. I don't care if you're making millions. If you can't walk away, why not? Because if the business depends on you, and if you micromanage it, and if people look to you to make all the decisions, you don't really have a business, right? You're just an employee in your own company. But if you had systems and processes and a good team, you should be able to walk away and they shouldn't need you to be around. And if something really bad happened, they will figure it out because they're the right people for the
Yeah,
company.
that's a whole other conversation. How to create an autonomous business.
I would say you cannot avoid burnout
Mhm.
unless you have an autonomous business or
Yeah,
something close to it, right?
something close to it. Yeah. No, it's super important. Yeah, I totally agree.
Okay, we talked about burnout. We talked about purpose. I guess the last question, Foti, is if somebody listens to us and they say, yeah, I read about the purpose thing. I don't know what my purpose is, right? What do you tell them? Right? How do you find purpose?
I would say that it's okay to sit with a question many times and just not answer it yet. It's okay. There's not purpose. I don't. Purpose is to live, right? To live your life. That's the purpose of life. The way I see, like the way I intellectualize it. And then the question is, okay, how do you live your life? Do you want to live a good life or a bad life? So if the purpose is to live life, because that's all we empirically know. We're born and we're here to live, right? We just don't want to die. It's like that's built into our, operating system. So if you want to live life, how? And then it's just a matter of reverse engineering what a good life is for you. And yeah, just build that life for you. That's your purpose. I think you don't always have to come up with something like, oh, I'm going to change the world in this way, like like the Facebook slogans in Silicon Valley and all that. Like, it doesn't have to be so whimsical. It's
Yeah.
just what makes sense for you in order to live a happy life. How do you want to end up? How do you want to feel by the every day? Okay, well, what do I have to do to feel like that? And then you reverse engineer, and then that's like a by proxy you can find your purpose. I don't know. That's
Very,
just
very, yeah, very cool. I used to teach my MBA students. Many of them worked for a living. They were executives taking MBA classes, and many of them were unhappy. Some of
yeah,
them business owners, and I said, listen, here's a simple exercise. Back to your point. At the end of each day, when you're in the bathroom brushing your teeth, it's just you and you, right? Ask yourself two questions. Simple. One, have I been productive today? And two, have I made a difference in someone else's life?
yeah,
Okay. They're very simple. The productive piece is, to your point again, we were given this life. You have a body, you have soul, you have a mind. Make use of it because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
yeah.
Um, and go ahead. Sorry.
I think there's this quote by the Spanish author for anyway, the purpose of your life, according to one guy who I saw a quote scribbled on a wall under a tunnel on the Camino. It was basically to reach your full potential in life.
Hmm.
So what is that? To your point about being productive, I just like tying it again with the social media and the scrolling and all of this. It's completely counter to finding your potential. You're just withering away, right? And you want to end up being able to look in the mirror and saying, "I love you," to yourself. Ultimately,
Hmm.
like if you can do that, then hell yeah, you're winning. Right? A lot of people are loved externally, like the celebrities, Robin
Robin
Williams,
Williams. Yeah.
amazing guy.
Brilliant.
For me, I thought so at least, but he probably didn't think so. He was looking at himself in the mirror and he didn't like what he saw, and that's a travesty. And so, like that's what you need to be optimizing for is like, can you love yourself truly though?
All right, so we'll end on a positive note that this 500-kilometer walk uh, was liberating on many levels for you. I guess the challenge for everyone, including you, I think, is to treasure it and not let yourself slide back to the pre-walk 40, which I don't think you will do.
The biggest present is the presence. That's why it's called the present. So
There you
just
go.
enjoy it.
And we should all
The only
enjoy
thing
it.
that's real.
Yep. In my show notes, you'll be able to see Foti's information. Go to his LinkedIn. You can see his post about this walk where I saw it and got super excited. Thank you so much. Say hi to Jessica. We'll talk soon.
All right. Take care, Zev.
Take care. Bye.